entered the temple, all flocked in. The men and the Franks, the latter without distinction of sex, sit or stand in the body of the temple. The Turkish women sit in galleries, behind such closed wire gratings that they are completely hidden. The temple, or more properly the hall, is of inconsiderable size, and the spectators are only separated from the priests by a low railing. At 2 o'clock the dervishes appeared, clad in long petticoats with innumerable folds which reached to their heels. Their heads were covered with high pointed hats of white felt. They spread out carpets and skins of beasts, and began their ceremonies with a great bowing and kissing of the ground. At length the music struck up, but I do not remember ever to have heard a performance so utterly horrible. The instruments were a child's drum, a shepherd's pipe, and a miserable fiddle. Several voices set up a squeaking and whining accompaniment, with an utter disregard of time and tune. 12 dervishes now began their dance, if indeed a turning round in a circle, while their full dresses spread around them like a large wheel, can be called by such a name. They display much address in avoiding each other, and never come in contact, though their stage is very small. I did not notice any convulsions, of which I had read in many descriptions. The ceremony ended at 3 o'clock. The Sultan once more mounted his horse, and departed with his train and the eunuchs. In the course of the day I saw him again, as he was returning from visiting the medical faculty. It is not difficult to get a sight of the Sultan. He generally appears in public on Tuesdays, and always on Fridays, the holiday of the Turks. The train of the young autocrat presents a more imposing appearance when he goes by water to visit a mosque, which he generally does on every Friday. Only 2 hours before he starts it is announced in which mosque he intends to appear. At 12, at noon, the procession moves forward. For this purpose 2 beautiful barges are in readiness, painted white, and covered with gilded carvings. Each barge is surmounted by a splendid canopy of dark red velvet, richly bordered with gold fringe and tassels. The floor is spread with beautiful carpets. The rowers are strong, handsome youths, clad in short trousers and jackets of white silk, with fez caps on their heads. On each side of the ship there are 14 of these rowers, under whose vigorous exertions the barge flies forward over wave and billow like a dolphin. The beautifully regular movements of the sailors have a fine effect. The oars all dip into the water with one stroke, the rowers rise as one man, and fall back into their places in the same perfect time. A number of elegant barges and caiques follow the procession. The flags of the Turkish fleet and merchant ships are hoisted, and 21 cannons thunder forth a salutation to the Sultan. He does not stay long in the mosque, and usually proceeds to visit a barrack or some other public building. When the monarch goes by water to the mosque, he generally returns also in his barge. If he goes by land, he returns in the same manner. The most popular walks in Pera are the Great and Little Campo, which may be termed burying places in cypress groves. It is a peculiar custom of the Turks, which we hardly find among any other nation, that all their feasts, walks, business transactions, and even their dwellings, are in the midst of graves. Everywhere, in Constantinople, Pera, Galata, etc., one can scarcely walk a few paces without passing several graves surrounded by cypresses. We wander continually between the living and the dead, but within 24 hours I was quite reconciled to the circumstance. During the night time I could pass the graves with as little dread as if I were walking among the houses of the living. Seen from a distance, these numerous cypress woods give to the town a peculiar fairy-like appearance. I can think of nothing which I can compare it. Everywhere the tall trees appear, but the tombs are mostly hidden from view. It took a longer time before I could accustom myself to the multitude of ownerless dogs, which the stranger encounters at all corners, in every square and every street. They are of a peculiarly hideous breed, closely resembling the jackal. During the daytime they are not obnoxious, being generally contented enough if they are allowed to sleep undisturbed in the sun, and to devour their prey in peace. But at night they are not so quiet. They bark and howl incessantly at each other, as well as at the passers-by, but do not venture an attack, particularly if you are accompanied by a servant carrying a lantern and a stick. Among themselves they frequently have quarrels and fights, in which they sometimes lose their lives. They are extremely jealous if a strange dog approaches their territory, namely, the street or square of which they have possession. On such an intruder they all fall tooth and nail, and worry him until he either seeks safety in flight or remains dead on the spot. It is therefore a rare circumstance for any person to have a house dog with him on the streets. It would be necessary to carry the creature continually, and even then a number of these unbidden guests would follow, barking and howling incessantly. Neither distemper nor madness is to be feared from these dogs, though no one cares for their wants. They live on carrion and offal, which is to be found in abundance in every street, as every description of filth is thrown out of the houses into the road. A few years ago it was considered expedient to banish these dogs from Constantinople. They were transported to 2 uninhabited islands in the Sea of Marmora, the males to one and the females to another. But dirt and filth increased in the city to such a degree that people were glad to have them back again. The town is not lighted. Every person who goes abroad at night must take a lantern with him. If he is caught wandering without a lantern by the guard, he is taken off without mercy to the nearest watch-house, where he must pass the night. The gates of the city are shut after sunset. In proportion as I was charmed with the beautiful situation of Constantinople, so I was disgusted with the dirt and the offensive atmosphere which prevail everywhere, the ugly narrow streets, the continual necessity to climb up and down steep places in the badly paved roads, soon render the stranger weary of a residence in this city. Worse than all is the continual dread of conflagration in which we live. Large chests and baskets are kept in readiness in every house. If a fire breaks out in the neighborhood, all valuable articles are rapidly thrown into these and conveyed away. It is customary to make a kind of contract with 2 or 3 Turks, who are pledged, in consideration of a trifling monthly stipend, to appear in the hour of danger, for the purpose of carrying the boxes and lending a helping hand wherever they can. It is safer by far to reckon on the honesty of the Turks than on all of the Christians and Greeks. Instances in which a Turk has appropriated any portion of the goods entrusted to his care are said to be of very rare occurrence. During the first nights of my stay I was alarmed at every noise, particularly when the watchman who paraded the streets happened to strike with his stick upon the stones. In the event of a conflagration, he must knock at every house door and cry, "Fire! Fire!" Heaven be praised, my fears were never realized. Section 4.